Hello YouTube friends, it is Monday, February 27th. I'm back to pick up part 2 of the story of how Jesus changed my life. But first, I would like to note that I'm wearing the wrong glasses. I had to work today and I ran out the front door wearing my indoor glasses and I just keep forgetting to change them to my outdoor glasses. Anywho, when I left off last time, I had made it to my Jordan River. And now I'm going to back up a little bit because you might be wondering what the 26 years of my wilderness looked like. The biggest difference between my wilderness and the wilderness of the Israelites is that they knew God was with them. They had seen him do the 10 miracles or plagues, and they walked through the parted Red Sea. God was in the midst of them the whole time. They were in the wilderness. They were in the wilderness for 40 years. When I walked away from God, I had no idea that he was there. I mean, why would he show up when I told him I didn't believe him? So, without getting bogged down in all the details of that 26 years, I'll hit the highlights. I was 16 when my dad died. I was 17 when I met my ex-husband. I was 21 when I married my ex-husband. Going into that marriage thinking to myself that I was making a mistake, but being a people pleaser, everything had been planned, and so I wasn't going to back out. I should have listened to my gut. I was 22 when I became pregnant with my oldest son. And it was shortly after that that my ex-husband started to become abusive. He was in the Air Force at the time, and we were alone in the same house. He injured me so much at the end of my pregnancy that I thought that my son was dead. He wasn't dead. He got out of the Air Force. 1985, my son was born. We moved back to Pennsylvania from Delaware. For 6 months we lived in my mother's house, and the abuse stopped because he was behaving himself. In the summer of 1986, I went on active duty in the Air Force. We moved back to Delaware. The abuse began again. By the end of 1987, beginning of 1988, I said enough and kicked him out. The divorce was final pretty quickly in Delaware. And he broke into my house one more time, and I thought for sure I was going to die that day. I had him arrested and sent to jail. Went to work. They told my supervisor, you need to transfer me someplace new. I got stationed in Spain. By now, my poor 3-year-old was telling me he hated me all the time because I was barely surviving, and I was not focused on him. I was not a good mom to him. We went to Spain, and he was so angry. He was such an angry little kid that I was afraid that I would lose my mind and hurt him. So I brought him back here to live with my mom. And that woke me up from my weird slumber, selfish slumber. I was super depressed. I got put on medication. I got better. I came back, reunited with my son, brought him back to Spain, and things settled down for a little while. I was always looking for something, though. Looking for, like the song says, looking for love in all the wrong places. I drank too much because I was so sad and unhappy and angry. I self-medicated with alcohol. Alcohol was my choice of self-medication. And after I got out of the Air Force, I met my younger son's dad in the Air Force, and it was a brief fling. He was a really nice guy, and I got pregnant with my younger son, and he was being honorable and said, let's get married, and I was like, okay, and then I couldn't marry him because it was too soon. I was terrified of men, and I was terrified that it would happen again. So I said no thank you. Then I got out of the Air Force in 1991, came back to Pennsylvania, moved in with my mom again, had my younger son. Within 6 months I had to move out. She was not very encouraging to me and was trying to take over the lives of my kids, and so that happened. So we got our own place. There were a lot of struggles with my older son throughout his entire childhood because he lived through the same trauma that I did. Neither one of us had any kind of therapy. The older he got, the more out of hand he got, and I just didn't know what to do. In the meantime, my younger son lived his life super quiet and just tried to be on his best behavior all the time. It's a sad story. Fast forward to close to, 2000. My older one was in and out of juvenile detention. The last time he went, it was right before he turned 18, and that program saved his life, praise God, and helped him turn around. It was a slow turnaround, but it was a turnaround nevertheless. Those years were so hard. He was using drugs, he was using heroin, and I didn't know. He was using prescription pain pills. He was using like opioids and things like Valium and Xanax, anything he could get his hand on, because he too was self-medicating. It was rough. It was really, really rough. And my finances were completely out of control. By the time 2004 rolled around, I was bankrupt and just constantly running away from pain, running away from anger, running away from fear, running away. And I finally asked the younger one, who was going to be 13, if he wanted to move to Florida, and he was like, okay. And 6 months later, we ran away from Pennsylvania and moved to Florida. And Florida is the place where everything changed. And in the interest of keeping these videos short and sweet, I'm gonna stop there. I hope you come back and come for the rest of the story, because it is a good story. It is a wonderful, awesome, miraculous God story. But it's a long story. So that's it for this part. I'll see you next time.